This is my new 2024 Tesla Model 3 long-range all-wheel drive. And in today's video, I'm gonna touch on why I bought this car compared to what's out there and what's available from its competitors. And yeah, I just wanna go over some of the points on why I chose to get this particular vehicle and why I decided to get not only a Tesla, but the long-range all-wheel drive one rather than the performance or the other long-range rear-wheel drive. And if you guys are new here, my name is Jason and I do reviews on vehicles here in Canada, and I also go over the ownership experience of my Model 3. So if you like either content, be sure to like the video and also subscribe to the channel to see more videos. So let's jump right into it and talk about why I decided to go with a Tesla compared to its competitors and what's available in the market right now. Now, don't get me wrong, if you are looking to get a full EV and you're looking at a Tesla or some of its competitors, now I'm not gonna lie, some of the competitors, they definitely look beautiful from the exterior, and the interior is not that bad either. Now, if you're someone who is so used to having like the typical interior, and by typical I mean like all of the buttons and just all of the controls rather than a minimalistic look, then yeah, that will definitely make sense for someone to get. And again, they're not horrible cars, but I think the Tesla Model 3 definitely has an edge compared to its competitors and just Tesla as a whole. And why I decided to go with this one right here is, first off, let's start off with the design of the vehicle. If you've been living under a rock, these have been refreshed, as you can see, compared to the previous ones. And honestly, I was looking into getting the previous one, which kind of looked like a frog, but while I was doing my research on which EV to get, I started reading about the refresh Model 3, and honestly, at first, the exterior design did not appeal to me right away, but I knew it was way better than the previous one. However, as I did more digging and my research and just look at other videos, because this was released in like Europe before it came to North America, so I got to kind of see those videos and I just fell in love with the vehicle. Because the designing on this, honestly, they did a very good job in terms of refreshing the front and even like the rear and some things in the interior as well. So that was one thing that was checked off. I was like, okay, you know what? They did a nice job with the refresh. So that checked off one of the boxes. The next was hearing about all of like the naysayers and like the media talking bad about Tesla in general, how the vehicles are this and that, so horrible, blah blah blah. You know how it goes. And really, I took a look at the competitors. Like I mentioned, like the Ioniq 5 was my other choice that I was looking into getting, because that car, I'm not gonna lie, has a very nice and bold exterior look to it. I don't know, there was just something about the Model 3 that attracted me to the vehicle, and I couldn't be more happier now that I obviously own the vehicle. And a Model 3, to be honest, may not be for everyone. There's so many other vehicles that are available that are competitors to the Tesla Model 3. But yeah, the looks aside, that was just one of the things. And obviously, just if you are someone who is kind of like I would say an Apple user, if you have an Apple iPhone, that's how I compare this vehicle to other vehicles, where I see others as like a Samsung, Google, Android, because everything that Tesla does, I think they do it exactly how Apple does it, and that's why a lot of people are a part of the Apple ecosystem. And same thing goes for Tesla. Not only their vehicles, but full self-driving, their app, and of course the heart of the car, which is the touchscreen on the inside. It's just so much better, I think, compared to their competitors. And that's why the Model Y actually was the #1 selling vehicle. But yeah, I mean, that aside, like for example, I looked at, like I was mentioning, Ioniq 5, Ioniq 6, and all of those vehicles before purchasing this one. And let me tell you one, the front space, even though I'm not going to use it as often as the trunk, but the front space is very small compared to what is on this car. So let me show you. Like, look at this. Now, this may not be a lot to many people, but if you compare it to its competitors, this is way larger than what they're offering. And this was, again, another reason, because you have so much space in this car. Not only the front, the trunk has a ton of space, and of course the sub trunk, and all of that combined, again, was another box that this car checked off. And to be honest, in my opinion, I think the trunk in this and even the sub trunk is slightly larger compared to its competitors. Like if you see here, you've got a ton of room back here, considering this is like their smaller car compared to like the Model Y and whatnot. But this has a ton of room, not only here, but then you have your sub trunk. And even this I think compared to the competitors is a much bigger size, just like the frunk that you saw. So this again was another factor on me going towards this vehicle. And like I mentioned with like their app and their touchscreen and whatnot, this was another thing. Their app is super smooth, super nice, and just overall it's a very nice app. And not only just the app and how it works, but the things that you can do on it. For example, Sentry mode, you can see live cameras all around the vehicle, so you know exactly what's happening around your car at all times. Obviously, if you have the full self-driving package, you have Summon, full self-driving, auto park, and whatnot. And obviously Summon, you can do it directly from the app, so which is another nice little thing. Same thing goes for like service appointments, roadside assistance. It's all done through the app. And another huge factor was for me to go to this car was their service. I've heard many horror stories that Tesla service is not the greatest, and I think that depends on the area and location that you are located in, because where I picked up the vehicle and their service center I think is amazing. Every time I've taken the car there, they've always helped me out. I've never had any issues with them giving me trouble. And it's not just a service center, but the fact that for certain things, if you do need to get fixed on your car, they'll send out a mobile tech. No matter where you are, if you're at work, if you're at your house, or wherever you are, you don't need to physically come to the dealership for certain things. But yeah, it's so convenient to have someone come out and just fix your vehicle if needed. And another thing that kind of got me towards this vehicle in particular, and again with the refresh, was that you get a screen back here. Before you didn't, you could get like an aftermarket one, but coming directly from the factory, you get a nice little screen. And you know, if you have kids or if you're going on a road trip with friends, family, people back here are enjoying whatever is on the screen, for example, Netflix and whatnot. And then of course they added like ambient lighting. I like how they designed the interior with this, and even the steering wheel. As many of you know, there are no stalks on it. As you can see there, everything is on the steering wheel. Your turn signals, high beams, wipers, everything is on there. Yes, at first it was kind of weird adjusting to it, but now that I've adjusted to it, I've had the car and owned the car for a couple of months now, I am so used to this. And whenever I get into a traditional vehicle that has all of that, I get confused because I keep pressing everything on the steering wheel. And even with this one, you do get the larger screen compared to the other Model 3s, and just like the overall design of the vehicle, they've done a very good job. And now let's talk about why I decided to go with a long-range all-wheel drive compared to a rear-wheel drive or the performance version. I slightly touched on this in my previous video, but the reason that I went with this particular spec is not only do you have all-wheel drive, you get 17 speakers inside, and also this is a long range, so you get a decent amount of range on this. And at the time when I ordered this vehicle, there was no long range rear wheel drive, it was just the standard range rear wheel drive. And at the time also there was no performance variation of this. That came out after, but regardless of it coming out after, I don't think I was going to go towards that. Number one, that performance is just too quick, and this alone I think is pretty quick. And of course with the whole charging thing to 80%, it didn't really make sense to go for the performance to have less range and on top of that charge it to 80%. Even if I do charge this one to 80%, I still get a decent amount of range on this. And this brings me to my last point. I've talked about the exterior, the space that this has, the design that it has, the rear screen, ambient lighting, all of that good stuff. But the biggest thing that I think made me go towards this vehicle in particular was this screen right here. If you compare this, the functionality, what's available on this, and just the responsiveness of it compared to its competitors, again, this goes back to how I think other competitors are exactly like in Samsung phone. There's so much stuff that you can do on this. It is just so superior compared to everyone else. So there you have it. That was my mini rant of kind of explaining why I decided to go with a Tesla Model 3 long range all-wheel drive. Let me know in the comments below if you are someone who's looking into getting a full EV. What do you think of the new refreshed Tesla Model 3 compared to its competitors? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys on the next video.